Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Wildcat. My name is Brian Kice, your host. To our left is our co-host for this week, Tyler Shooter. And to our right is our guest for episode 3, Wyatt McClory from the baseball team. Wyatt, thanks for being here. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a fun one today. We've got some questions for Wyatt in our first segment. We're going to call this one First to Home. Wyatt, we've got some questions. Tyler and I will bounce questions off of you. First one is pretty easy. You've done this probably a million times. What's your year, your hometown, your position, and your name?
Wyatt McClory. I'm from San Diego, California. Sophomore. I play third base.
So baseball is a very unique sport, as we all know. There's a lot of really fun things about it, but in your opinion, what makes baseball unique?
Just the way that it takes the mental capacity for it. You know, the failing out 3 out of 10 times and you're still Hall of Fame or 7 out of 10 times, excuse me. It's hard to stay strong mentally, and that's kind of the biggest thing.
What is important about that mental game that factors into what you do specifically?
Just trying to stay up as much as possible. Just being as positive as you can. It's a huge thing. It's going to help you succeed more, and it's going to be better for the guys around you as well.
Awesome. Tyler, you've got some questions.
Yeah, I guess so. My first one is, what do you think is unique, kind of special about being a student athlete here at Linfield?
I think that it's special because we have a good opportunity to kind of showcase what we can do at the D3 level while still trying to keep up our good grades and be good students and go out after college and get a job.
So you've bounced around at a couple of positions. You started your career at second base. Now you're at third full time. What about that switch? And what about those two positions is unique and important to you?
So through my high school career, I played third base, and then I got here and I was playing third base all through the fall and through January, and Josh Manser came back. He's a really good player, and he came and played third, and they moved me over to second. And that switch for me was, I feel like I'm pretty adaptable. That switch was something that I needed to work through. Just being up the middle, trying to have more range. And you have a lot more time over at second than you do at third. And you have to, it's less reactive and more being able to pre-plan what you're going to be able to do on what certain plays.
Yeah, so I guess what's something that's been a big kind of difference between this year and last year? I mean, I know that this year you kind of found more power stroke and kind of different things like that. So what's been, I guess, the thing that you kind of noticed that's been different?
The difference between last year and this year for me was my mentality. It had a complete 180 switch where I was putting less pressure on myself, and I was just going out there having fun, trying to do the best that I can. And I feel the same way with the guys around me. Everyone's out there. We're just trying to play for each other, have a great time doing it.
The culture on the baseball field this year in particular has taken a massive step up. What about that and the teammates and the coaches and the whole thing, everything that's going on at Roy Nelson Field? What about that is unique in 2026?
Everyone's super close. We're all equal. We have our captains who are great. Nick Holm, Keegan Weston, those guys are amazing. And they help everybody feel included. We're all super close. We do things together we do things together off the field almost every single day. And it's been super big for our team chemistry.
And you guys room together as well on and off the field. You talked about that a little bit. Do you have roommates that are on the baseball team?
J.R. Starr and Jacob Bishop.
Legends. Tyler, you got a couple more questions?
Yeah, I got a couple more questions about your kind of your game. I mean, so I know that at least for your kind of two-strike approach is pretty different than a lot of people. I know a lot of people kind of just try to shorten their swing or something, but you kind of change your batting stance. I guess, how did you start doing that? And do you feel like it kind of affects your game and stuff?
I started it last year, I'm not really sure what came to it, but I was taking up the entire box with my lower body, and it worked a little bit. It didn't work very well. So over the summer, I kind of worked on being taller and still keeping my same upper body, the same swing path, because I know my swing path is good. And just trying to shorten up, put the ball in play, it's helped out a lot.
You've had a lot of highlights in your career to this point. You've now started every game this year at third base. What have been a couple of those highlights that you can pick out just from this season or even last year?
Well, from last year, especially at Occidental, my first 2 collegiate home runs came in the same game, and that was amazing. I had my family there, had a couple of my boys from back home there. It was super special. This year, though, I think the Grand Slam at George Fox was probably one of my favorites. Or at Laverne. Those were super special.
Those home runs you're talking about against Occidental, Laverne, a couple of SCIAC teams.
Yeah.
Is there any bias in playing in California in front of the hometown fans?
Yeah, sometimes I just have to show out for the boys and for the family back home. It's fun just being back close to where I grew up, and I just feel comfortable.
Your family, I know they come to games sometimes. How often does that happen? Is that a confidence boost for you?
Absolutely. My parents try to come up twice a month, which is unbelievable. I'm so thankful for them, and it's such a blessing being able to look up in the stands and see somebody that I'm so close to, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, at this point, you've kind of gone through around 3/4 of the season or so and had a really good year. I guess, what do you hope to kind of get out the last quarter of the season and kind of hope to bring to like work on the off season?
Staying hot, keep my confidence up, because baseball's so up and down. Had a down week at Whitworth, but trying to be able to bounce back this week. Jake Hoskins, our coach, he said, "You're still the same player. Doesn't matter what happens."
What about having those relationships with the coaches, especially the younger coaches like Jake, a guy who played here? What is that like? He was an infielder. Are you looking up to him, and what are you talking about with him and the other coaches during practice and outside of it?
I like to pick their brains about certain things, especially Coach Harlow, he was a all-conference first third baseman, and Jake was also an all-conference shortstop. Those guys have been super vital with my defense. That's been a big area of improvement, and just being able to kind of figure out where I can improve. And those guys have helped me out a ton.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, baseball's such like a game where, I mean, you kind of have to be really mentally strong to kind of succeed and stuff. I guess, how do you kind of like, after a rough weekend, like you said, you had at Whitworth, how do you kind of prepare during the week to try to, like, I guess, bounce back or continue your hot hitting stretch?
I just try to they always say flush it, but it's hard to do that. So being able to take a few things that I was able to do okay and being able to ride with those versus the things that I didn't do well, and obviously learning from those, but being able to adjust off of it.
Off the field, or it can be on the field as well, but do you have a favorite part about Linfield, and what makes being an athlete at the Division III level so unique?
The culture has been super important with everybody. There's a lot of athletes on campus, and it's always cool being able to go out and support the other athletes and watching them come and support us. It's been super cool to see that part of our culture. Yeah, I mean, just being able to know that you got people in your corner that you don't even know who they are, but they're in your corner.
Absolutely. Was there, I mean, you're a guy from California, right? Was there any like influence as to why Oregon and why Linfield?
When I came on my visit, it was very cold and rainy, but it was something that I felt like would have been cool to do, being able to get out of California and watching the culture and the way the guys interacted with each other I thought this was the place for me, and just being able to continue that culture here. Absolutely.
Tyler, you guys are both SoCal guys. You have some more, probably a little bit better understanding of how the SoCal culture works. Do you have any California-related questions for Tyler?
I mean, I guess just playing in the Pacific Northwest is so much different than California. Just kind of some of the, I guess, climate aspects of it. I guess how did you deal with it at first and kind of get used to it?
It took a lot of adjusting, being able to just not expect certain weather any certain day, and just being able to roll with it, being able to adjust.
I mean, the weather's been nicer.
It's so nice this year.
It's starting to heat up a little bit, so it's been good. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here in the first segment. Wyatt, thanks so much for coming on. We've gone to first, second, third, and now all the way home on our first to home segment to lead things off on our episode 3 of the Weekly Wildcat. Wyatt, thanks so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. Good luck the rest of the season. It's going to be a fun one. Baseball playing this next weekend and the following weekend, May 2nd and 3rd, the senior weekend, to round out the regular season. Wyatt, we'll see you there on the baseball field. Thanks again.
Thank you.
On to our second segment, I want to say a huge shout out to Wyatt McClory for coming on and being our guest for episode 3. It was a great interview. Thanks again to Wyatt. Baseball team has got a lot going on, and we'll touch on it here in our next segment. This is the Roundup, looking at all the events that have happened in the past weekend and looking ahead at the next week. Tyler, it was a lighter weekend slate this past weekend as baseball looked to bounce back after the tough road trip. Wyatt was talking about that, Tyler, and you and I were there. We've been around that series, but Whitman is coming up, and some good things. What are some good things you saw? Sorry, hold on. Let's rerun this because I'm bouncing back. I want to send a huge shout out to Wyatt McClory, our guest for episode 3. Had some great interviews with him. Great guest. We're going to wrap things up here in our next segment. This is the Roundup, looking at everything ahead and from the past weekend around the Linfield campus. Tyler, it was a lighter weekend slate this past weekend as baseball looked to bounce back after a tough road trip. Tyler, you and I were at the series versus Whitman this past weekend. What were some good things you saw on the 18th and 19th?
Yeah, I mean, in the series against Whitworth, the team just didn't play that well. But I mean, coming in this weekend, they definitely bounced back. I mean, hitters took some really good at bats against some really good pitchers. Whitman has multiple guys that were kind of D1 bounce backs and played at a high level, and taking some really good at bats against them, it was a really good sign. And they just looked a lot more comfortable and kind of played their brand of Linfield Baseball.
And Linfield Baseball, that brand has been so great this year. Pitching staff, particularly, especially in the Whitman series, showed out, and they had a great one this past weekend. Baseball is really picking things up. They're going to be a team to watch going forward.
Said Whitman, but they played Whitworth. They keep saying Whitworth.
He said Whitworth, but the first time they corrected himself to it.
Yeah, they played Whitworth this past weekend,
and they play Whitman. We play Whitman at home this weekend. So anyway, yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Thanks for that.
I was trying to
we got Swift by Whitworth, which was cool. All right. Then Tyler, softball also headed to Tacoma this past weekend to face off against PLU. Lily said it was going to be a big one, and it turned out to be a great series for catball. Ashley Naven, our guest from episode 2, check that one out. Had a great series as well, but softball on the catball side of things is really, really having another good season. It's really going to be, Lily talked about it as Lewis and Clark, PLU, and Linfield are the top three teams in the Northwest Conference, all down to the last week of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Linfield softball went into Tacoma, and they were tied for first place in the Northwest Conference, and it was a really good series. Ashlyn, I mean, has been kind of doing the same things that we've kind of getting used to, and even started to get a little bit of the Shohei Ohtani treatment with some of the walks that she's gotten. But the team looked really good, and it was really good softball played up in PLU.
Catball, a team to look at going forward. They will play Puget Sound. We'll touch on that in just a moment. But track headed to Portland to face Lewis and Clark in a duel to finish the regular season on the rubber. Great results on the 18th and the 19th as well, as they will wrap things up and head to the Northwest Conference tournament coming up. Again, we'll touch on that in just a moment. But to finish things up from this past weekend, the 18th and 19th of April, North Plains, Oregon played host to the Driver Cats on the golf course as men's and women's Golf concluded their seasons at the Northwest Conference Tournament in North Plains, Oregon. That's everything that happened on the 18th and 19th of April. We'll take a look ahead as cut it. And Tyler, yesterday to wrap things up on this recap from this past week. Yesterday, baseball had a midweek non-conference game, their last midweek of the season, as they took on the Bruins of George Fox right here at home. That was a great season. I was on the call. Oh, that was a great game. I was on the call for it. Wildcats, as McClory talked about, are really, really starting to shape up, and they're making their push towards the Northwest Conference here late in the season.
Yeah, midweek games are always so fun to watch. It kind of gives some of the pitchers, especially that don't necessarily always get these high leverage innings during the weekend games, kind of an opportunity to get some really good experience pitching against a team with another jersey, which is always a fun experience. So midweek games are always kind of fun. It was a really competitive one.
You and I know that pitching is really, really the key factor. And for some of those younger guys, it's a great opportunity those midweeks are. But looking ahead now, track will be in Spokane, Washington, to take their talents to the Northwest Conference Tournament. Northwest Conference on the lane should be a great meet for the Wildcats on the track and field side of things as they wrap up their season. Tyler, a lot of these sports are finishing their seasons. Really just baseball and softball will be in full swing to enter the month of May.
Exactly. I mean, track's had a great season. There's been some really good times this year, and kind of looking forward to see what they can kind of produce this weekend.
Baseball and softball, we're talking about it a lot, but they're back in action. Softball will be back in MAC as they take on the Puget Sound Loggers, trying to chop some wood and win another series at home. They do so well at Dale Smith Stadium. That's one to keep an eye on next weekend on the 25th and 26th against Puget Sound. Baseball will trade places with softball and head up to Tacoma to face Puget Sound on their final Northwest Conference road trip before they return home to finish the season against Lewis and Clark in May. And to finish things up, lacrosse will be in Newburgh to face the Bruins on Saturday. Their second to last Northwest Conference game. That should be a great one, a very tough opponent in the George Fox Bruins on the lacrosse side of things. Then they will have senior day on the Sunday against Willamette to end their season. 6 seniors on the lacrosse side of things. That'll be a very, very fun, nostalgic game as they finish their careers. Tyler, that's going to wrap things up for us here on episode 3 of the Weekly Wildcat. That's going to conclude things on the roundup as well. But great to have you on as this week's co-host. I want to send a huge shout out to our crew working behind the scenes, Maddie Funk and Luke McNabb on the cameras. Lily Buendia back in the studio again, this time working our audio, and Sebastian Sevilla helping out behind the scenes as well. My name is Brian Kice, signing off for co-host Tyler Shooter and our entire crew on the Weekly Wildcat. We'll see you next week here in McMinnville.
You got to